All right, folks, got a great guest today. Her name is Maddy, and she's the author and founder at the Blogsmith. So welcome to the show, Maddy.
Welcome.
Thank you both for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Yeah, why don't, instead of me kind of repeating stuff I found out about you online, why don't you tell us more about yourself and what you're up to? I know excited to talk about SEO with you because we definitely have been doing SEO for a long time. So anyways, but yeah, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. And add in anything interesting you may have found, but so I run a company called the Blogsmith, and we do writing and strategy, content writing and content strategy for, I would say, primarily enterprise B2B technology brands, any sort of like SaaS product or web hosts are a big contingency of ours. And I would say what sets us apart from perhaps other content agencies out there is really our obsession with style and the reader experience. My background's in website design, and so that it was kind of the vehicle that brought me to content marketing as my current job. And as part of doing that, as part of just past projects I've done, I've been really interested in like the user experience. And so that's kind of like why we focus so much on the reader experience. And so, yeah, just kind of, I guess, one last piece of information about the Blogsmith is every content piece we create, we kind of treat as like a mini strategy project. We do in-depth keyword research, we create custom branded graphics, and we also do professional edits to the point that some of our clients actually use our editors as like an a la carte offering for some of the freelancers that they work with, that they want to make sure that, you know, whoever's editing the piece, that it has been taken the most care with. So yeah, that's kind of what we focus on.
Okay, awesome. I love that reader experience. I haven't heard that. You know, I've heard user experience a ton, but reader experience, that's great, because I feel like a lot of times, you know, this SEO articles can be very kind of dry and boring, and they're written for search engines and not for people. Right. And, you know, so yeah, I love that you're.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, so much, if I do a Google search for something, I'm just looking for something, I click on the first link, it's like you can't even read it. It's such bad form, you know, clearly like not written with the reader experience in mind, for sure. And that's, it's not just the first result. It's like it feels like all the results that I come across are like that.
A lot of them.
It's very rare for me, at least, to you know, have a query and use a search engine and get something right away that's relevant and well put together. I feel like it's rare.
And I feel like Google would be sad to hear you say that, because their goal, their ultimate goal, it's okay to make them sad. They can handle it, but their ultimate goal is, of course, to share the best content, right?
Right. So, yep.
With the algorithm the way it is right now, they're getting there, but they're probably not fully there yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there has been, or at least I've experienced, a real push for real content. I mean, it was what, a decade or more of just gaming the system, basically. And I feel like the last few years there's been a push to make content, you know, more human,
actually useful and good.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you like dive into, I mean, you said keyword research, and like, are you looking at their analytics to kind of see what's popular and what, you know, like, you know, I guess if you start working with a web hosting company, you know, are they giving you like, hey, we want you to write this, or are you telling them, hey, I think you should write this on this because your analytics are saying this? Or
Sure, it's definitely a mix. Like, we have some clients, and I would say more of like our writing clients, where it's like, here's the brief, execute, you know, like they have it all kind of figured out. They just need somebody that they can trust to execute on it. Or, you know, maybe they want to scale up content creation, so they don't have a ton of writers in house. And so that's where we come in to help them and just support what they've already planned. In other cases, especially I would say in the case of clients that we work with that are small marketing teams, they don't have a whole content arm, or maybe it's a new company and this is their first foray into content marketing. For them, it is a lot at the beginning of the relationship, if they have existing content, auditing it to see what opportunities there are for perhaps updating what's already there, just low-hanging fruit. Another thing that we'll do with really any client is like a content gap analysis where we're comparing them to their top competitors and seeing what opportunities there are to create better content for keywords that their competitors are already ranking for. So it really depends on the client. Some of them kind of have the strategy all figured out and they just need somebody to execute on it. And some of them really have not a whole lot of support for content within their organization. So they do need us to fit all those roles.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
For e-commerce, how different is it coming up with content for like e-commerce businesses versus, something, a company or an organization that's not trying to sell something on their site? Like how different of a process is that?
I think it's mostly like the mediums that are different. Certainly the strategy, but really like the end content and what an e-commerce business would focus on. So when I think of content for e-commerce, I'm thinking, of course, of things like product descriptions, landing pages, website copy in general, because all your top level home, if you have an about page, all your product and category pages and stuff like that are all so important because you are trying to sell something. In working with e-commerce clients, the approach is definitely different. I wouldn't say that we necessarily have executed on a lot of like product descriptions specifically, but a couple things that we have done or have talked with clients about are things like we worked with a clothing brand that was on Shark Tank, and we created these guides where they basically had a certain style of clothing and they wanted to come up in relevant search when people were looking for kind of like a lot of different related keywords. And so we created these guides that were focused on different types of buyers. So like for one example, like a professional photographer who needs like a certain, I'm trying to like talk around it without saying the brand, but like a certain clothing that they would wear that would help them, have all their lenses and stuff on them. Yeah. Or for the same client, another type of client for them might be just like a traveler who is using their product to have their passport and their sunglasses and whatever on their person. And so the guides we created for them, it was like an in-depth piece about, how you would use this. It was to some extent talking about competitors and how they're different from them, and also weaving in reviews and links to the product pages and internal linking and things like that. So it's just a little bit different than I think what we're best at is blog posts. And I don't know that blog posts are really the main focus of e-commerce. I think it's part of it. And I think that it's useful. But I think when I work with an e-commerce client, I'm thinking about balancing like the short and the long-term strategy. And blog posts are kind of the long-term play. The short-term play is more of like the landing pages. Another thing that we've talked to a client about recently are like comparison pages. Mm-hmm. So it was a client who had kind of like Home Chef or one of those like meal kit delivery services, and they have like a very specific niche. And so we were talking with them about, putting together this versus that, going after those types of terms and how that could be something that would maybe convert more quickly than a blog post.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think like blog posts, I mean, we work with some e-commerce clients, and it's tough to kind of sell them on.
It is. It's a tough sell. I think they should do it, but it's a tough sell.
Yeah. I think, companies that do understand it do well because it helps rank their site. And, if you got more eyeballs on your site, you're going to eventually get more sales. So,
right.
Yeah. So I guess how does a company typically engage with Blogsmith? do they working with you kind of on a monthly basis and or kind of a la carte time or, products or?
Yeah, I think our best relationships are definitely those that are ongoing, just because we have more of a chance to get to know the brand, get to know really like the existing content you already have and how we can weave it all together, really nail down the tone of voice, the customer personas and things like that. We will do a la carte content, but it's just a really heavy lift and we do have to charge more for that. So in most cases, we are looking for an ongoing engagement. And I would say this year, we're really kind of like rethinking how we do business in terms of the packages that we offer, because and you guys maybe have experience with this too, but when we're selling content services, people get really stuck on like word count as a measure for pricing, even though it scales beautifully, I think. It makes it a lot easier to quote if we're going off of like a word count thing. So anyway, in 2023, we're moving towards a more holistic model that's less tied to word count, because there are so many other activities that happen outside of the writing. There's
the
SEO
research
stuff,
and
design, analytics. We
Yeah.
also do a little bit of a quality check. Not every client works with us to upload content to their content management system, but we typically will check the piece after it's live, regardless of who uploaded it, to make sure that, for example, one thing that happens all the time is we'll put in like a table of contents, like in the Google Doc we deliver to a client. And sometimes they make the mistake of linking back to the Google Doc, like using the jump links in the when they upload it. And so we usually do a quality check and we'll say, hey, either this is formatting weird, or oops, this is linking back to the Google Doc. And there's just all these little things, that have nothing to do with word count. And to some extent, like people take for granted that that's part of really like the full content process. And so, yeah, in the new year, we are kind of reimagining how we do business to be more, I guess, modular, where it's like you get a certain amount of pieces for a certain amount of spend. And then we handle all the strategy and monitoring and analytics around that.
So what, I hate to go back to word count, but just, I totally get what you're saying, because there's so much behind it with graphics and research and everything that you do that goes into a piece. But do you have like a sweet spot as far as like word count? Are you shooting for 2,000, 3,000 words, or 1,000 words, or 5,000?
Sure. Yeah, it totally depends on the piece. It totally depends on the topic and the client to some extent. We typically use Clearscope data for word count. And the reason why is because there are a lot of these content optimization tools that will make a recommendation for you based on a certain primary keyword that is used to generate reports. So like we do use phrase. We have used Marketmuse, and then Surfer. Certain clients in the past have had us use that. All great tools. The problem with almost every tool except for Clearscope is that they take the average of a recommended word count based on the top, 10 to 30 results. Clearscope takes the median. And so it helps to better account for how an outlier might be skewing the data. One thing we have seen really on like any of these tools, Clearscope included, is sometimes based on like the HTML that it's scraping, things like comments might factor into that word count number. So we like to go in and kind of check and see, this is what the report was pulling to make recommendations for word count, for example. But then like, what actually does that page look like? Is there anything that it's scraping that shouldn't be factored into that word count? So we use Clearscope mostly, a little bit of human intuition mixed in there. And I would say, for us, a lot of times we'll set a word count and then our writers will come back at us and say, hey, I'm not going to get there unless I add fluff. So, if the client's really stuck on this, let's talk to them about that. But I think the problem with word count as like a pricing metric is people are like, oh, well, you're just going to try to make it as long as possible. That is not how we do it. Like, we are all about being thoughtful with word choice, cutting fluff. It's in our style guide. We're just trying to get the job done so that there's enough context for Google to index your page.
Yeah, makes sense.
What metrics do you look at most to gauge like success for content? What do you find yourself looking at the most for clients?
Sure. Yeah, I think it depends on the client, but certainly like your typical, organic traffic, how that grows month over month, how visitors returning, how that metric grows. We do look at things like backlinks. We don't currently build backlinks. That is something that we are exploring for 2023, whether that's a partnership or something that we do in-house. But like earned backlinks, especially for like our bigger hosting clients, that's a metric that we consider. For certain clients too, it's like, what do you count as a conversion? And we haven't so much done this yet, but for any new clients that work with us on strategy in 2023, we will be setting up Google Analytics for them according to certain conversion factors that we discuss with the client, like whether that's signing up for a demo or downloading an asset or in some other way making a purchase. So yeah, it is very client by client. Some of it's kind of your typical Google Analytics stuff. We also do rank tracking for clients, mostly behind the scenes right now because we're building out that strategic package and how we present it to clients. So that's been a big thing this year, is just like building out dashboards and reports that kind of help us to make sense of it to clients. But yeah, the strategy side of the Blogsmith is something that we've been working on a lot this year to then offer as a more holistic service next year.
Got it. Did you say rank trackings or?
Yeah, keyword rank trackings.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, that's important, I would say, to pretty much all of our clients, at least those that engage with SEO specifically, because we do other copywriting as well that has nothing to do with SEO. It's kind of interesting though, is we always start with keyword research, even if we're not going to use them at all, because it's for us, it's part of topic research.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, could you speak to some wins that your clients have had, or?
Sure. Yeah. So one example of a client that it has a cool story is we work with this client called Goodcover, and they offer renters insurance in California. I believe they're planning to expand, but it's a little bit of a niche offering for now, just in terms of location. And we started with them. They had pretty much no content. They didn't have a content strategy. And so what we've done is taken them from no content to ranking in the top 10 and top 1 for some things in the competitive insurance market. So that's one thing that's a little bit outside of our main niche, but that we've sort of taken from nothing to ranking. And then another client is Nexus. Sure.
So how long was it, like, that process with them, like, before you kind of, was it, I don't know, was it like a 6-month engagement or after a year? Or?
I think we've been working with them for a year, and I think we started seeing those results within 6 months, and then they continue, to compile.
Yep.
So that's one. Another client we've worked with is Nexus. So they're a web host. They do focus on e-commerce specifically. And of all their contributors, our content gets the most combined organic traffic and ranking keywords in the top 10, in the top 1. Another thing that we do for clients in general is it goes like far beyond a primary keyword. Using tools like Clearscope, we uncover a lot of secondary semantic keywords. Part of our process involves looking at the search engine results page and looking for, like the people also ask questions. We're looking for lots of different ranking opportunities. And another one is featured snippets. If that's something that we can achieve for a client, even if we can't get the primary, that maybe we can get the featured snippet at least. And so we're always looking for for different things we can do in case, the first idea doesn't work out for whatever reason. And so I think for Nexus, we have something like in the past year, like 70 ranking featured snippets as of the last Ahrefs check.
Wow, nice. Nicely done.
What do you think or what has been for you or your team, the most difficult part of SEO versus, just creating content?
That's a great question. I mean, I think for all of us, it's the fact that we never have the full story. And then it changes.
Yeah.
And, and sometimes I think clients react before even the change is fully rolled out as in like an algorithm update or a core update. And so that can be tough because it's like, we're trying to make sense of it at the same time that you're, looking at your analytics and seeing a shakeup. And so one thing that I did this year, because there were so many algorithm updates in this like latter half of the year, like fall specifically, was I put together a video and I had some of the SEOs on my team just do some research and do some digging in terms of like the latest spam update. There was that product reviews update, the helpful content update. And we just kind of dug in and looked at to see how other people were affected, how we were affected, what the time period of the rollout was. And we just put this video together to kind of help clients see that algorithm updates are normal. They typically shake things out for a bit and then they settle. And, unless you're in the extremes of the affected, whoever like the update was intended for, typically it shakes out more or less. And, but we're always looking to see what is Google focusing on in these updates? How can we bring that back to our process, our style guide? What can we take away from the things that they do tell us? And I guess another thing along the same line is we try to really be students of what both other SEOs are saying and what Google tells us. And one thing that I did in recent history was go through the Google quality rater guidelines page by page, took tons of notes and, just try to make sense of how Google looks at quality and meeting needs on a page and turning that into our style guide, collating that with our style guide.
God, awesome. Was that video something you like sent out to your clients and like, hey, check out the latest? Okay.
It was. And then I ended up.
Sorry.
No, I think it's a good idea though, now that I've done it, whenever there is like a big algorithm update that's happening, just kind of getting ahead of it and letting them know that like, we are concerned with this. We are reacting to this and we are looking into it. What I did with that video was I sent it out to clients and then it was kind of, what's the word? It was like agnostic of any specific client. So then I uploaded it to YouTube and shared it beyond our clients as well. And we did get a lot of great feedback from clients after sending that. They had like passed it on to like other members of their team. And, they just felt a little bit better about all the things that were happening on Google by having an explanation that made sense of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's great we feel like one thing that we struggle with is just education. We can do the service, but you also have to educate the client. We're sending out reports and doing things like that. But if they don't understand what, it's like
right. Yeah. And I feel like there are a lot of things in what we do. We get questions and it's like, it seems obvious to us, right? But it's not to them. And like one of the things we do that it's kind of funny because you also like give the education and sometimes it gets ignored, but on our like standard like doc of content that we send out to clients, I have a couple of like videos. One of them is like, what is Clearscope? What does the score mean? Another one is like how to interpret. We'll sometimes add screenshots from Ahrefs and it's like, here's the keyword difficulty and monthly search and, the CPC data or whatever. And it's like, here's what that means, and then another thing we do is really for our own use, but also to just show clients part of the process. We'll change like any keywords we're targeting to a different color in the document, just again, to kind of show like the distribution, but also to show that we use them. And there's a little explanation in the document that says like, oh, like they're purple to show you that they're keywords or whatever. But sometimes clients will come back and be like, why are they purple? It's like, it's in the doc.
Right.
So for all your efforts, education,
Is yeah,
I don't know.
it's important. It's important. I wonder how many, what percentage of, are you working directly with the companies, and then also are you working with sometimes working with like an SEO agency too, or are you doing?
It's mostly direct.
Okay.
We have recently kickstarted a partnership with Web Dev Studios where we're like their preferred content partner. And so with them, it'll be a little bit of a closer relationship because they're doing like the design and then we're putting the content to the design. And to some extent, it's going to need to be collaborative to do a good job of that. But it's definitely something that I would like to be more purposeful in making those partnerships and connections. I think that maybe we've had this perspective of like, oh, well, we could do a lot of that. But then it's like, actually, we do need some support on some like nuanced things and at scale. If a client needed something at scale, like that's where we would have trouble with, technical SEO or backlink building, for example. And so that's why we are definitely like looking for partnerships to be able to offer it as more of like a package, whether it's white label or like a referral thing or whatever. I think it's an untapped thing for us for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've already mentioned a few of your tools. We love tools on this show. You've mentioned Clearscope, Ahrefs. Can you talk what else is in your tool stack? I'm sure you have like a huge monthly fee of all your different.
Oh my god, I do. I got a little bit of a break when Ahrefs was doing. Back when the Ukraine war broke out, since they're a Ukrainian-based company, if you donated to a Ukraine cause, out of like the list that they had curated, then they actually extended our subscription because we did that. And so the Blogsmith is probably worth mentioning that every month we donate $1,000 to a specific cause. Somebody asked me to explain like how we choose the causes. It's mostly causes I think that I like, which is probably like a bad metric. But I think if I were to summarize it, it would be helping the underdog. So it's like Girls Who Code, Black Girls Code is another one we recently donated to. I do ongoing donations to Kiva, which is like micro lending. And then I just never take the money back. I just keep relending it. Unbound is another organization that I monthly donate to, where it's like you sponsor a child in another country and their family. I've done, like local stuff in Denver, like the art museum or whatever. So it's like a little personal to me, but it's also like trying to help something that matters, that maybe is like underfunded. And so anyway, Ahrefs expanded our subscription. So that saved me a little bit of money by like doing the thing I was already going to do. Right.
Right.
But besides that, it's mostly Clearscope, Phrase, Ahrefs. We use SERPwatch as a keyword rank tracking. It's probably also worth noting that I buy like a ton of deals from AppSumo, which for those who don't know is like an entrepreneurial marketplace of lifetime deals. And of course, 10 of them like don't work out, but one of them's like the golden ticket tool, like Phrase. I mean, I got the like maxed out lifetime deal for that. And it went away the next day. It was one of the few AppSumo deals that actually sold out. And so I'm like thanking my lucky stars that I jumped on that one when I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just bought one called Neuron.
Neuron Text or something.
Neuron Writer.
I have that one too.
Yeah. I want to just bought like one subscription, but depending on how useful it is, maybe I'll go in and buy some more just in case it does go away. Because they're great deals.
I almost always buy the AI writer tools just because I want to mess around with them, and so I'll do like the lowest license level you could get just to play around with. Almost the same thing with like almost every SEO tool. I'll just buy it as a rule because you never know what's going to happen, what's going to become a big deal. I guess the last thing that I'll mention too is not an SEO tool specifically, but we use this tool called Process Street, which is
Hmm.
a process management tool versus a project management tool. And what I really love about this tool is like you could build any process that you could ever imagine. It has conditional logic, it has permissions, so you could, you know, change who could see like certain parts of the process, for example. And so we use this for like our big content production process that everybody on the team touches, but they come in, you know, at the right time when it's, you know, ready for them. And I use this tool for so many different things. I was just talking to somebody the other day about beyond work stuff, which it has a ton of applications for. I recently built a process that was like my travel packing list template. And because of like the conditional logic and stuff, it's like, okay, am I bringing my dog with? Okay, I need to bring all her stuff. And then it populates that. Or like, oh, is it a business trip? I need to make sure that I have, you know, some like nice clothes for that, good shoes, whatever. And then it like, you know, adds all those things. Or, oh, like, am I only bringing a carry-on? Okay, well, don't bring any aerosols or, you know, large liquids. And so it's like, it's crazy. You could make anything that you could ever imagine on Process Street.
How many processes do you have?
A million.
Sounds like it. Awesome.
You mentioned AI a few minutes ago. Is that I feel like I see it more and more.
Oh yeah, hot
people
topic.
like kind of just testing things out to see what AI comes up with. Do you see it ever, or yeah, do you see it ever replacing like writers fully, or are we, you know, ages and ages away from that?
I don't know about ages and ages, but I don't know about fully replacing us. And the reason why is because I think that until we get to like Westworld levels of robot consciousness, then there's really no way for them to be empathetic. And even if they do reach levels of Westworld consciousness, I don't know that they'll ever be empathetic to their supreme leaders, us, right? So, so since a robot can probably never be empathetic to the human condition, which is what we as marketers are trying to appeal to with writing, we're appealing to their feelings and their needs and trying to be empathetic with them so that we can get them to buy something and to convert. And so without having that fundamental piece, I don't know how they, I think what would be interesting is to study the conversions of an AI generated piece of copy, no matter how like good it looks, right? But like, how does it actually perform? That's a study that I want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would think once it becomes more integrated with real life, you know, websites and stuff, that the AI itself would incorporate the, you know, the conversion success and
you would think.
Modify itself.
Yeah, I mean, and it can learn, right? So that's part of it. But a couple of other current issues with AI that give me pause, but don't stop me from playing around with it, because I do see a future, and I do see a benefit to using it in addition to your human intuition. But it's things like, I don't think that AI fully understands nuanced brand tone of voice. We have Grammarly that can sort of like detect it, but even Grammarly, you know, half the suggestions it gives you, it's not like, it maybe the rule makes sense, but the application of the rule doesn't. It's not fully understanding the context. So even like Grammarly, which is probably the most advanced AI of understanding nuance of language, even that is far off. It's also things like, I don't think that robots understand art direction yet. I think we have a lot of cool AI generating art tools, and I have a lot of fun, you know, putting weird prompts in and seeing what it comes up with. But they can't like come up with the prompts, you know, like they still don't. They couldn't like direct themselves, and also just like the reader experience, putting it on a page in a way that continues to get somebody to scroll through and be interested. The last big thing is fact checking. Most of the stuff that AI tools spit out, they spit out confidently and incorrectly.
Okay.
And that's a huge problem, because I mean, it's a crutch if somebody uses AI, but then they never add their own voice to it, and then they never actually bother to any sort of claims made validating those. So that those are the intrinsic issues with AI from my perspective.
Yep. Awesome. Gosh, I feel like we could speak to you for another hour, but thank you so much. Let's jump into our kind of fun questions at the end. I'll start. Your favorite? I think we already know this because you talked about Process Street, but favorite tool that isn't Process Street that you?
Airtable. And I'll give you one more example. I'm building out, if you guys have seen Clueless, like how she has her wardrobe and you can like compare it on like the screen or whatever. So I'm building out the Airtable version of that for myself, and I'm obsessively photographing my entire wardrobe over the past like 3 days.
Wow! So you're loading your wardrobe into Airtable.
Yep. And I have a little interface because Airtable has this new interfaces feature where you can further manipulate the data. And so I literally have it so you can like do a check mark. Is this today's outfit? And then it shows all the pieces together.
Wow. That's really
interesting. Daniel's got an Airtable for his recipes.
Nice. Another great use case.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Do you ski, snowboard, anything like that?
I ski hesitantly.
Hesitant.
It kind of scares me. I wish like my parents would have anticipated that I would have lived in Denver when I grew up, and so they would have started me at 2 when you have no fear and it doesn't matter if you fall anyway because you're that close to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some of the best skiing in the world, or maybe country. Yeah, for sure.
And I've tried. I mean, we've gone to Aspen, Steamboat, Crested Butte, Winter Park, and Copper Mountain are really close. So I've definitely like tried. I just haven't gotten over the fear yet. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Oh, Copper Mountain was the last time I snowboarded, and I fell on. I had my cell phone in a pocket right here, and I fell on my chest twice, and I think I broke some ribs, or at least
oh my god,
it was so painful.
That's awful.
I haven't been since.
Okay, well, I'm convinced. I'm done.
Yeah. Favorite, and this might get you in trouble, but
that's okay.
Favorite web hosting provider.
Oh yeah, that will get me in trouble. My political answer that I also believe is that there is a web host for every use case. And we use Kinsta because their performance is one of the best. And as somebody who offers SEO services, I think it's important to like practice what you preach. And so that's why we go with Kinsta. That being said, all of the hosts that we work with operate in a very specific niche. And I do recommend them periodically to people who fit that niche.
Good answer.
Should have been a politician.
All right. Meow Wolf, Denver.
Oh my God. Yeah, I've been to all 3.
Okay.
And when we were in Santa Fe recently, completed the pilgrimage. Been to the Denver one twice so far.
Nice. Nice. Which one do you prefer? Or are they all great?
They're all great. I love the whole aesthetic of the Vegas one, where it's kind of like a weird store. And I definitely bought myself, it's like a ham, but it's a backpack, and it's the best backpack. I think the story is the best at the Santa Fe one. And then the Denver one is one of the coolest because it's so big. I think it is physically the biggest one. So there is like the most art to sort through and walk through and just try to make sense of.
Yeah, I love it. Daniel took me to Meow Wolf when I was visiting him a number of years ago. We had so much fun.
So cool.
Crawling, opening up a refrigerator and walking through it, or the dryer or whatever. It was so much fun.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. I think they're so imaginative. And then one of the co-founders of Meow Wolf, was recently in Denver for Denver Startup Week and did a panel that I attended. So I'm obsessed.
Nice. Favorite mentor in the marketing field?
That's so tough. I'm gonna actually talk about somebody that people probably don't know, but my old boss when I was in college who sparked a love of content and user experience. His name's Ben Lewis. So he works at the University of Iowa's Department of Student Life. He taught me that user experience is the most important thing.
Love it.
Do you know how many hours a day you read on average?
It depends. So most years I do the Goodreads book a week challenge. And so one year I did 100 books.
Wow.
This year I'm on like 40, so I'm behind.
Okay. That's still more than, I'd say you're still in the top 1%.
I love to read, and I think that's necessary as somebody who writes. It's important to know, to understand language from a lot of different points of view. And I totally shoot myself in the foot by watching like a ton of reality TV, but I always feel better when I make time to read a book.
Yeah. Favorite social media site, and I'll ask this for work and for personal. Could be the same one. Yeah.
Sure, personal Reddit, because it's wild.
Okay, Daniel's a Reddit.
Nice. You could just find anything on there, and the people on Reddit are super sleuths, and if you ever mess up, they'll figure it out and they'll call you out for it. And then for personal or for work, I would say it's probably either LinkedIn or Twitter. I don't know where Twitter will be in a couple weeks though. So.
Oh yeah. I think that's how I think I found you on Twitter.
It's been real. But we'll see.
yeah, we'll see for sure.
Is it coffee, tea, or something else there?
Something else. No, I'm just kidding. It's tea. It's called Peach something. The company is called Tea Leaves. I found it when I was in an American Airlines airport lounge, and I'll be honest, I stole a bunch of it, but then I bought some too.
Okay.
Because I really liked it.
Watch a couple of weeks to get a bill from
right.
We saw you on the podcast.
They're like, we need to recover that expensive tea that you stole.
Awesome. Well, Maddy, thanks so much. Why don't you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Absolutely. So maybe Twitter at Maddy Osman. We'll see. You could also check us out permanently on theblacksmith.com. You can see our portfolio, learn a little bit more about our services and our clients. And then last, I would recommend, if you liked what we talked about today, my book, Writing for Humans and Robots, The New Roles of Content Style. You can think of it as kind of like the elements of style if they knew the internet existed. But of course they didn't, because they wrote it in 1918. So...
Awesome. I have your book too. I don't have the actual hard copy, but I did get it on Kindle. So
that's awesome.
I need to. It's in the queue. So and also I noticed you do a lot of courses on, is it Skillshare?
Yeah. So Skillshare, I have a lot of, like, you would call them probably 1 hour deep dives into different topics of interest to people who create content, want to create content, or do SEO in some way, or want to learn about SEO. So definitely check out my classes there. My most popular one's called How to Write a Kick-Ass Blog Post, and it has over 2,000 students now.
Okay, awesome. Well, great, Maddy. We'll have to have you on again in the future and talk more about. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Bye.